You do?
When you press the red button, it makes you start.
Really?
You do that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Really? Funny. I charge by the second.
Okay. RDC the
He said it was a couple minutes today.
5 minutes is from 1 o'clock, you know. So it's 20 minutes now.
You're in this way.
Okay, let's do that. Good afternoon. I thank all of you for attending this press conference held by the government that we are committed to holding fortnightly. Since we had our last press conference, we have indeed had a very extremely busy agenda. And I'm sure most of the areas we will not cover here in this press conference today, but you might have heard about some of them before. One of the main events that took place since we last had this press conference was that of visit around the islands. And the purpose of our visit around the islands was to indeed engage with the people and to look at the various issues that they are facing and to put plans in place to address those particular issues. And this was particularly important so that we can be able to prioritize funding for the upcoming budget, 2013-2014 budget. While visiting the islands, we pay keen attention to areas such as education and healthcare, which were priority on our agenda, and the scope for various developmental projects that were available or that were currently being worked on in those areas. The visit started in Grand Turk, and as you know, in Grand Turk, one of the major issues in Grand Turk was that of water, and we are still making progress on the procurement of the RO plant for Grand Turk, and that is indeed has been just about ready to be shipped to Turks and Caicos. And once that is established, we will also be building a housing for the RO plant to house that RO plant once arrived in Grand Turk. But since that took place, I think we had some additional difficulties with the RO plant that is actually there at the moment, and so we may have to fast track some more, put in place some more funding to deal with that RO plan that is there that has broken down. We went around visiting the schools and the high school in particular. There's work continuing on the administration block of the high school, of which we recently made funding for in the House of Assembly. And that work will continuing. Hopefully, we will see some completion with that later this year. Works also continue on the high school auditorium and with the building of the basketball court outside of the auditorium. And we are also committed within the 2013 budget to see that project also be completed. The high school auditorium in the H.A. Robinson High School in Grand Turk. But a lot of the work was being done by the school themselves in collaboration with the community, and so we commend them for that. We're still encouraging community efforts and partnerships with the community because there's still a lot of work to be done with that school with regards to its upkeep, with regards to cleanliness, and we encouraging all parents and citizens in Grand Turk to assist in that regard while government do its part. The Clinton Primary School, likewise, we're preparing to start works there. We're trying to prepare the various tender documents that are required so that work can be started. You know that we recently made provisions for additional funding for the redevelopment of the school into a two-story block. Just recently, this week past, they opened up a cafeteria, a brand new cafeteria, state-of-the-art cafeteria at the school. And I'm proud to say that it is a cafeteria that I would like to see around the islands in terms of, I hope, through the cleanliness. They call it canteen, but I call it a cafeteria because I think I'll give them that. Um, and so we're happy and we like to see similar cafeterias around the islands, but with healthy foods being served. On the island of Salkey, the main concerns of the citizens of Salt was that of water, and we have committed, and this is in two parts, both the water tank, that on the reserve tank that is empty, and has a large crack in it, and the funding is made available so that we can get work started quickly on that tank to repair the crack, and to also look at procuring RO plant for Salt Key because that RO plant, even though it's serving the population, it's almost lived its useful life, and we need to replace that as soon as possible, and so that we can have a consistent, reliable source of water on the island of Salt Key. The Again, other areas of concern are areas such as the cleanliness of the place and keeping up, and with that we need to commit more staffing towards keeping the environment clean. Or jobs with regards to repairs and maintenance around various buildings and government buildings, and so we have to put the EMS on the ground to ensure that these minor works and repairs are done. Also, the clinic redevelopment, we want to make sure that whatever provisions was made in this upcoming budget to at least start that clinic project there in Salkey, so that they can get the clinic that they will deserve. Job creation there is like in everywhere else, it's a big issue, but for that small community of Salkey is an issue. We will be working with Carnival, who will be looking at facilitating excursions to Salkey from the Carnival Cruise Lines, and hopefully that can really create more opportunities and job opportunities for the people there in Salkey. And there are a number of other issues that they brought up, but we have took note of them all, and we'll be looking at addressing those particular issues. In South Caicos, one of the main problems that they're facing now is the airlift. As you know, that the airline had reduced their schedule to 3 days per week, and it's really becoming a very burdensome for persons trying to get in and out of South Caicos. So my Minister of Finance has looked into it already, and we will be looking at working with the airlines, either of the two airlines, to ensure that we have daily flights in and out of South Caicos. Right now, they are being served by the ferry service, and we would also like for the ferry service to also continue because the ferry service can allow for persons to carry more goods to South Caicos. And so even though the airline will get started back up full-fledged daily, we have to also ensure that the ferry service could also continue. On South Caicos, there are four major developments that need to take place. One, the High Point Resort. The High Point Resort is well in advance in its completion of its several buildings, and most of the units in that resort is really practically sold, at least 90%. But it is also the airlift to South Caicos is dependent on the airport being completed, and so that resort is working with the government and trying to come to an agreement for the redevelopment of the South Caicos airport. And I think the minister may make mention of that in a little bit, Minister of Finance. But the opening of High Point is also highly contingent upon that airport also being completed. And East Bay is looking to hopefully open later on this year, probably in the fall of this year, at least two of their condominium units. And they also looking to the government for a few issues that they have that we have to help them address to ensure that this is facilitated. The Sail Rock, we took a tour of the Sail Rock development. and they have at least three or four homes that have been developed, and they will continue to develop those homes. And I think that in itself is providing jobs there for the people of South Caicos. And the more of those lots that are sold, the greater the opportunity for job creation there on the island of South Caicos. They also had other issues such as the dock, and hopefully we can address that issue with regards to the dock that is used particularly during regatta time in our upcoming capital budget. In the island of North Caicos, some of the key issues in visiting the schools, looking at their technical programs, I can commend the schools in North Caicos for kept nice and clean. I think we need to put in place a few more sporting facilities for them so they can help with their sports program. The Q Clinic, when we were there to look at the problem with the ant infestation, and I can report that I don't think I saw any ant at all, maybe one or two ant, but it was just recently fumigated, and I hope that particular fumigation works. But we still intend to remove the individuals from the clinic temporarily to do some refurbishment work to that clinic and do a more thorough fumigation in the interim. We took the opportunity to visit the various farms, both the government farm and also the farm owned by Pastor Courtney Missick, and to discuss in detail where we need to go with farming. And we are trying to put together the Farmers Association to meet with the Minister responsible for agriculture to then move forward and fast track our agricultural program with the formation of an agricultural cooperation that will benefit the residents there in North Caicos, in Middle Caicos, and also on a whole Turks and Caicos. The Causeway project is about on the way. The contract has been awarded. They've identified the quarry pit, and they should be starting work there by. I can't really go into the detailed technical aspects of the work, but removing quarry and filling in the various parts to get the work started on the causeway, which is badly needed. That was the main concern from the people of Northern Middle Caicos. We took the opportunity to visit the various sites there on Middle Caicos, such as the caves, look at certain National Trust heritage sites that we need to work with the National Trust with to try to get up and running quickly. We also took the opportunity to look at prospective sites, possibly for the juvenile detention center. As you know, we have funds committed for the development of the juvenile rehabilitation center. The options were Grand Turk in the community that's identified, or in Middle Caicos, and we're going to probably put some more funds to it so that we can build a purpose-built facility that will house at least those juveniles and rehabilitate them properly back into society. On the island of Providenciales, we had town hall meetings to address some of the issues here facing Providenciales, but I will speak specifically to certain groups in particular that we met with that doesn't form part of any particular island grouping. We met with we had a PTA meeting. The Minister of Education and the Deputy Premier met with the general PTA body to discuss safety and security in the schools. I heard that meeting was very successful. Lots of ideas were given by the various parents and teachers present, and we will be taking those ideas forward and developing as part of the redevelopment of the school a new education policy and curriculum. And that group, core group, has already been formed to fast track the so-called education symposium that will give way to the development of the new education curriculum and education policy, as we had committed to doing in our manifesto. We also met with the persons, the Provo Immature Basketball Association, and that meeting took place last Saturday. I can also report that meeting was had a good turnout of both players and persons interested in basketball, and it was centered around the use of the Gustavus Lightman Sports Complex. And because it's a multi-purpose sports complex, many different groups use the complex, and because we're trying to expand basketball into a primary school league, we're finding it difficult to accommodate everybody. At the same time, certain costs associated with it. So some of the suggestions that we took on board and we think were important is to try to look more into the community parks, such as the basketball courts in the various community, ensure that there are proper lighting on the courts to ensure, so that persons won't necessarily have to come to the Gustavus Lighting Sports Complex to just to practice. They can do that in their community where they live during the evening and the night with proper lighting so that it reduce the cost and reduce the congestion within the Gustavus Library. So we have committed to working with them along with the um, Department of Sports and also along with the Sports Federation in addressing that particular issue. During the course, we've also met with um, the persons from the water sports industry in discussing the regulating the water sports industry. And this regulation not only centered around the safety of the industry, but also centered around the competitiveness within the industry. We Many persons felt as if belongers were being squeezed out of the business in the industry, and so we have committed to one putting in place a moratorium on new licenses because it is a reserve category and we want to enforce it as a reserve category until we can put proper mechanisms in place to ensure that there's belonger preference in that particular industry as we grow this economy. And so we will be looking at the business licenses that deals specifically with that particular part of the water sports industry, and we're committed to helping them. A lot of them have many concerns, the things ranging from insurance and having to acquire a very high price insurance just to compete in the industry. And so we, as a government, have to find a way to assist them in dealing with that. Similar, that meeting was held in Providenciales, and a similar meeting was also held in Grand Turk. And the group has now, with the minister from DEMA and the Ministry of Environment, will be taking those comments on board and trying to inform on new regulations for that particular water sports industry. We also met with persons from the cultural market who had many concerns as well. We discussed the concerns that they have with regards to selling their produce, with regards to the upkeep of the facility, with regards to persons finding them in that location where they are, and we have committed to working with them into improving the opportunity to sell their produce within that cultural market and also at beach location. So we will be getting back to them and feeding back information to them. And this was done especially in the light of the new veranda, the takeover of veranda by beaches, and some of the concerns that they expressed. We we've also had the opportunity to have actually no, I'll go on now to the area of the finance. The main area of finance really was that of the value-added tax, and again, where we are, the value-added tax is that as a government we are committed to not support value-added tax. I have already written to the minister, Minister Simmons, basically stating our position that we are not supporting value-added tax. We have given two options, at least two options by the British government. Either you put in place value-added tax, income tax, or property tax, or you go forward with limited expenditure. We intend what we put forward, but that we will intend to go forward with limited expenditure, but at the same time put in place all of the alternate revenue measures that we committed that we were going to put in place as an alternate to VAT. And most of those we have discussed already, and we will be taking papers to cabinet next week to address the regulations that govern so that we can improve on compliance, so that we could expand the accommodation tax base, so that we could look at the head tax with regards to carnival cruise and other tax raising measures that most of the ideas that we got from the people themselves in the various sectors, and so we were putting them in place. So we are quite confident that we can raise the revenue that will far exceed what VAT would have raised. We also submitted to the minister our fiscal and strategic policy framework document, which will form the basis for the preparation of the 2013-2014 budget. and he should be getting back to us on that particular document, which we will then take to the House of Assembly for debate at the House of Assembly level. In the area of immigration, the immigration department has have a number of initiatives that they have embarked on, and I will also ask the Minister of Immigration to comment on that. But as you know, the beaches recently had a job fair, in addition to increasing the staffing that was specific to resorts and placing persons in resorts that will facilitate belongers getting employed within certain jobs that may be available and offering through resorts, and also to facilitate the resorts in their employment process, in fast tracking the employment process. But I'll ask the Minister of Immigration to speak to that particular issue. The minister, in terms of overseas visits, the Minister of Education had an overseas visit to a school in an institution in Switzerland that dealt with hospitality studies and hotel management studies. And it could report that that visit was very successful. It seemed to be, she was accompanied by the principals from the community college, and it seemed to be a way to go with possible collaboration between that particular school and the community college in getting some of our students to do their various training at that institution. So I will stop here and open the floor for any additional questions that anyone may have.
Can you expand a little bit on the limited expenditure move that the government is making in terms of its no to VAT position?
Yes, basically the position with regards to the budget, as you know, we are operating on a 2012, 2013 budget. And so the increase in 2013, 2014 budget would have been 10 million. We will not increase it, the expenditure, we will not increase it by as much as, it would have been less than 10 million because the revenue would have been additional 10 million, but we will not increase it as much as 10 million, just from a budgetary standpoint. But we are quite confident that that the revenue measures that we will put in place will allow us to still have expenditure in excess of 10 million. Simply because what we will have to do is to do mid-year review and also mid-year supplementary to allow additional expenditure within the media.
And this communication to Minister Simmons was the follow-up to his response to you saying that there was going to be no delay?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. Have you seen the new VAT report by the British economist, Mr. Teether? Yeah.
Yes.
You have any comments to make on what he said?
I think he was spot on in his analysis and what we were saying all along.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, one last question. The extradition papers for Mike Music were sent in yesterday. Do you have any comments?
Well, my only comment on that regard is that that's a matter that's being dealt with by the Attorney General's chambers and also by the I was going to hasten to the city governor's office, but I'm not quite sure of that. But also that is something that should have taken place long ago because I was made to understand that Mr. Music was actually requesting to voluntarily return home. So if that was the case, he should have been home long ago. That's long overdue.
And as far as the letter to Minister Simmons, when did you send that?
That letter went off yesterday.
And that letter went with the suggestions. That was the full package.
Yes, the full package. Yeah.
The development agreement with the Standards Law International. How is that coming on? Because I did an interview with recently when they had a job fair, and they were saying the former Veranda employment would be predicated on how early the agreement is ready.
It's a former.
The former Veranda, what they're saying is that the employment there will be based on how early the agreement is ready.
Right. We met with representatives of beaches for the first time this morning to begin discussions on the acquisition and how we as a government could assist and what we as a government or what we could assist with in terms of seeing the project now that they've acquired Veranda and they have works to do to get operational as soon as possible. They started operating, but then they closed down because they have to do repair works. So we would, as a government, we would love for that to be a very short time period, and so we will work with them in getting whatever agreement we can to make that happen. But our first meeting was today, and we have reached no particular conclusion. What we hope to come out with is at least, first of all, an MOU, and then followed by hopefully a new development agreement.
Can I go back to the, you said that there was going to be additional funds for the juvenile center. Can you say how much?
No, I can't say that much. I was just saying that based on if we are going to go with a new location like Middle Caicos, because we did not really identify any building there that may be fully suitable. And so if we still go with Middle Caicos, we'll probably have to put additional funding there to make that happen as a new location. Yeah.
Okay, and the Farmers Association meeting, can you say, do you have a timeline as to when they're expected to meet with the minister?
Well, the minister is supposed to get back because, as you know, we have an issue with the director of agriculture who's resigning, right? So we're gonna sort that out and then move on from there.
Okay, but how would that delay affect putting your agriculture policy in place?
Well, hopefully it doesn't affect it long, because even if without that person in place, we'll still move on because there are persons who can properly advise. And this is the Farmers Association. The first initial meetings will be the Farmers Association so that they can give us guidance, and we can also take their concerns on board with regards to developing agricultural policy. So hopefully within the next week or two, we will meet up with the Farmers Association.
And you said the resort in South Caicos, its opening was dependent on the airport's redevelopment.
Yeah, that's the High Point Resort. Yeah.
Oh, so are you looking at, basically I'm looking at timelines right now.
The timeline, the earliest one that I can see is the East Bay, which is scheduled for opening in the fall, but it can be as early as the summer, depending on certain requests that they're asking for assistance, and so we will.
And then the airport would be ready.
Their particular resort is not a high volume resort like the High Point. High Point is almost like a club, I think, where persons come down almost out. They want a charter jet, so they will need that airport to be ready. But we would love for the airport to be ready for East Bay as well, because the better the airport is, the more persons are likely to come and stay at the resort. But what they want is to have definite reliable flights to South Caicos in and out, be it local aircraft on a daily basis.
That'll have to happen before High Point opens.
Yes.
Have you begun talks with anybody to look at having the airport up and running, or?
Yes, I'm saying High Point is involved in it because they're involved in the development. That's part of their development agreement. So I will ask the minister if he can. You can probably speak with that, or some parts he may be able to speak to, some parts he may not be, because
And the juvenile rehabilitation center, I've heard this being talked about for a long time, but I've never really heard of any statistics or information on the social side as to why this is probably so necessary.
Which is true. Right now, at one point in time, we had up to 6 persons in prison. Now we have 4 juveniles in prison, and prison is not the place from a human rights standpoint. It's not the place for them to be, and so they need to be at some place. So you may find that you will probably have to spend a little bit more just for those 4. I think we have a few there for juvenile thing, yeah. Yeah, and as I said, some of them in Jamaica at the moment as well. So.
I went to Associated Medical Practice about 2 days ago, and when I was there, I saw about 6 to 7 children from primary schools in Cape Ryan, the Crab, and a few others. Vomiting, diarrhea, all that. Is the neurovirus return?
Neurovirus, we haven't reported neurovirus have really returned. We are now into the seasonal, because remember before I think several years ago, at this point in time, we always have an increase in viral gastroenteritis, and that is what more likely is you're probably seeing now, the viral gastroenteritis. But but we will be monitoring it to see exactly what proportion of it may be norovirus and what may not. But there's no particular spike in any particular schools that we can see.
We know the schools have been scoured, right?
Mhm.
But, you know, I'm told by students that there is nothing in the restrooms now.
Yes,
To clean their hands.
we have that problem, and we are putting pressure on the Ministry of Education to ensure that. And I, in one, because we visited the bathroom. I visited the bathroom personally, and to look at to see how we can erect the soap dispensers probably on the wall. But the teacher's saying some of the students will vandalize it and all kinds of things. When they put the soap there, the soap just disappear, and so we have to find ways of putting those supplies there and protecting them probably. Uh, but, but they are right. There aren't regular supplies in those particular bathrooms to keep them clean, and we have to look at that and make sure that is
I understand also that scouring is a pretty expensive exercise. Do you know roughly what it costs government schools to do that work?
Well, I know we had an expenditure. I could just tell you what the warrant was about $70,000 or
For
thereabout.
all of the government
Yeah,
schools?
all of the
Countrywide or just?
countrywide, yeah. Countrywide. But I couldn't say what the actual expenditure ended up being, but I know what we warrant for. Yeah.
What could you tell us about West Caicos development?
West Caicos Development, we have a meeting with them tomorrow to fast track the development. That's the most I know. And this will be the first time that, as a government, that we are meeting with the West Caicos Development Group. We remember, as you can recall, that signed an agreement that was signed under the governor. He announced the development moving forward, and so we are just now being introduced to the developers tomorrow. They are coming in country, and we'll be introduced to them, and then we'll see how we can move forward.
We haven't heard anything about the 28-story development. What's going on?
Well, the 28-story development, well, we haven't heard anything much from them either. We do not, our legislation don't have any provisions about 28-story development. Um, our national physical development plan, we have a committee that will be going to start to look at our national physical development plan, and the actual plan obviously will take a while. It will not get finished before the budget start, but project provisions will be made in the budget to complete that plan. Once that plan is completed, you could see changes. You can possibly see changes in building height, density. I think those are the two main components: building height, density, and proper zoning. And so that will inform whether or not, I guess, the 28, not 28-story, but similar to 28-story come back.
You believe that they have backed off because you didn't hear anything?
Some people may have rumored that they probably have gone to Cayman. I don't know, but yeah, that's.
In response to some of the comments made by the deputy governor after hearing comments made at the town meetings, one thing she itemized was that she's awaiting the government, your government, the administration, to let her know about staffing needs, new requirements, I think in one instance a budget, so that she could assist or determine if there was a business plan toward staffing an office for you. Where is the administration with that kind of thing, or what do you feel on those comments?
Well, as I said, when I made my comments in town hall meeting, my comments was made just generally with regards to the situation that we find ourselves in place and some of the difficulties. And I also said that we as a government, probably what we should have done from the initial onset was which they should have done as well, is to transfer the relevant budget head from the deputy governor into the various, and so we are about to do that, and that is what we're going to do. But the staffing and employment staffing, you still have to go through the various processes within the civil service for improved staffing, etc.
When do you feel like this will all be settled? What does it look like?
It's all ongoing. I don't know if it'll be settled. It'll be ongoing.
Ken, go back to the norovirus issue. Have you heard about, we've had reports about shortage of supplies, medical supplies in North Caicos at the center there? Have you heard those similar reports?
Yeah, they're at which center? Well, we didn't get that report from while we did in North Caicos, but I'm sure that they do probably have some shortages. And I've asked my minister and the primary health care manager to look into that and for them to put together their needs and to ensure that, because all we need to make sure is that it's not a funding problem. It's a funding problem. As ministers, we're going to fund it. We have to fund. We have to make sure that staffing in place to provide the various logistics in ordering their supplies and getting them in the clinics.
And that's something that's going to happen across the board in the other islands, right?
Yes, yeah. Because Salke also had that concern. Yeah.
I understand what the readiness of the Premier's office. How is it going?
Readiness of the Premier's office? Well, one, the Premier's office have a full staff complement of 1, 2, my head of secretariat and my personal assistant, and that as it stands right now is all that is possibly budgeted for under this current budget. So any additional staff we'll probably see come under the new budget come April, and we would not be looking to have any significant increase in staffing either, because we have to be mindful of costs, and so we'll be looking to how to just increasing the necessary critical staff.
On the physical building itself?
On the physical building? Oh, the physical. Oh, the Premier's office.
Yeah.
SIPT we told SIPT to get out.
So why
And I tell the governor them to get out. And I already put my minister of works, and I just go to the PS of that department on notice. They need to get out. Right? I know it's probably maybe difficult finding other places in Provo that suit their location, but I need them out ASAP.
Is it hampering your work in any way? Meaning the government's work in any way?
Yes, it's hampering, because the main reason why we are in this building here, where you are, is because that conference room that we normally would use upstairs in the living building is not available. The same reason why we may find ourselves in different offices, because this office is not available. All right. So
yeah, what did they say? The boss telling you, what did they say? I'm trying to understand the answer to that.
well, they will find out soon.
Yeah, how so? My Grammy has to say, you stop eating when your belly full. So when is your belly going to be full?
I'm a hungry man too. Don't worry.
I just want to get an understanding of how the ministers operate. Given that we don't have how does a minister operate in each capacity?
Well, they operate from the various ministries that they're assigned to. Most of them have ministries like Honorable Mizik here. He falls on the Turks board, so we have the pleasure of using this particular office. I will have the pleasure of using the Ministry of Health office that I used to use before. Honorable Career Mizik will have the pleasure of using the office by the sports, where the sports continues to be. So they limp along, but in terms of the coordination, while most of us do spend most of our time in Grand Turks still too, because that's where the main offices are, and so we do spend quite a bit of our time in Grand Turks. So,
When is the next host meeting? I heard it. It sounds like something the man just said. It sounds like it's a different time frame.
Well, we will have formal notice, and all the members will have formal notice of when the next house meeting is.
It's not Friday?
Huh?
It's not Friday?
There will be formal notice of it when it is.
It sounds very interesting.
Okay. I'd like to add my comments to what the Premier has said. I'll focus on a few slight different areas, or maybe different take on some of the things we're doing. Because when we came to office, we told you that we were interested in growing the private sector to create jobs, and that is what we have been feverishly working on against the backdrop of increasing taxation. We believe the focus should be on expanding the economy, creating growth. Um, that would require new legislation. It would also require uh, a clear investment policy, which we're currently working on. I would like to just speak to a couple of initiatives that is being undertaken in the Ministry of Finance. At the next meeting of the Cabinet, which is next week, Thursday, the Ministry of Finance will be presenting a fractional ownership ordinance to the Cabinet, and hopefully that will move from there in quick order to the next meeting of the House of Representatives or the House of Assembly. We're also in the process of crafting a credit union ordinance. I think we spoke to that during the elections, that it was important to create non-banking type financial institutions to facilitate small businesses and private individuals, employees from various industries, notably tourism, and for that matter, the public service, two largest employers. So those are in train. The credit union ordinance, I am now reviewing draft ordinances from the Cayman Islands and from the Bahamas and from particularly Bermuda, in a view of coming up with something that suits the Turks and Caicos. What we've just done a couple of days ago was put together a working group. We're looking at establishing an SME organization, small and medium-sized organization, to decide to assist in building, developing entrepreneurial skills, facilitating small and medium-sized businesses. The focus being on things like helping them in management training, project planning, business plans, and also identifying sources of funding. This is something that we will be doing in conjunction with the private sector, the banking sector in particular. The organization will more than likely be a non-for-profit organization, which would be driven by the private sector rather than by government, with government support, because we strongly believe it's very important to take the indigenous population along with us in the physical and economic growth and development of the islands. So that's what we're doing. As I said, we put forward a number of initiatives that we will be undertaking in order to generate additional revenue. There will be a paper in the next cabinet to focus on strengthening the various pieces of legislation that allow us to do that. The Premier spoke about the broadening of the accommodation tax regulations in order to allow us to generate more revenue from that sector. We promised that that we would reestablish TC Invest once we came back to office. But we've had two papers to cabinet so far on that, and we've now just put together a working group because the old TC Invest ordinance was repealed. So in order to take a new body forward, focusing more on promotion and of inward investment and facilitating local investment. In order to take that forward, we have to introduce new legislation. So we have a working group. We've identified a working group, high-powered working group of public and private sector individuals to help us decide what the shape of that organization would be, what would be the focus and the functions of that new organization. And I'm hoping that that will be, we will have legislation in place. I'm hoping we will have legislation and a formal organization crafted by the end of this financial year so that we could look at commencing the operation of the new one at the beginning of the next financial year. Um, I think I did mention the review of the different pieces of legislation in order to strengthen the compliance regime in terms of the collection of government revenue. The just like the Premier mentioned, High Point. That to us is an extremely important piece. High Point and the East Bay are extremely important to us in trying to create a viable private sector in South Caicos. It's a very complicated arrangement with High Point and the government and the expansion of the airport. And there are some issues that we're working on at the moment. And when we have our next press conference, I hope to be clearer on exactly where we are. But I can tell you that I've personally been spending some time with the developers in trying to assist them in moving the project, getting the project completed, and getting the airport also completed in order to make it, bring it to a standard to receive international passengers. One other issue I'd like to speak to is that is the tourism industry. We have a very serious interest, I would say, from Royal Caribbean about establishing a cruise port in the Turks and Caicos. It's preliminary at the moment, but I intend to take we intend to take to engage in further discussions. As you know, Carnival has an exclusive on Grand Turk in terms of cruise port facilities, not exclusive in terms of cruise ship visiting, but they have an exclusive in terms of the port facilities. So these are all issues that we will have to deal with. You know. But I can say that there is, generally speaking, there is an abundance of interest by investors in the Turks and Caicos. And that is why it is extremely important for us to make sure that we have a body that is arm's length to the government to help to drive investment and to help to facilitate the marshalling, so to speak, of projects from the point of receipt through the various departments to the point of execution. So I think from where I sit, there's high confidence in the government and in the Turks and Caicos Islands. We intend to drive this interest despite the obstacles. The issue on the SIP being in government building, I think it's the Premier stated today, privately, he didn't tell you very forcefully, but he has made a commitment to us to issue an ultimatum in the strongest possible terms that they should find alternative accommodation and find it quickly, because their being in the building is actually hampering the business of government now. And I believe that is untenable. The issue of the value-added tax and what we decided to add to what the Premier said a while ago, we have made a tactical decision. The ball is now back in the British government's court. One of the issues that they've put to us, one of the alternatives is to decrease in expenses or freeze expenses. We've made the decision to freeze expenses because we believe our revenue measures will generate the money that we need to justify an increase in expenses, but we're prepared to delay that and provide the evidence within the first and the second quarter of 2013-14, at which time we intend to present a revised budget. It is our hope that we can get the budget introduced and passed in the beginning of the second quarter, because it has already been delayed by all of the for the reasons that we are discussing, the proper evaluation of alternatives. So basically, there are a number of initiatives that hopefully, when we come to you next, we will be able to report on more clearly. And so that is where we are.
So, Minister, how much government revenue is outstanding now?
How much of it is
How much,
outstanding?
yeah, how much, when I say revenue, I mean, how much does the public owe government as far as payments that should be made?
No, I don't have that detail. I don't think anyone has got that detail in particular, because part of the issue is, for example, if you take business licenses, we don't know how many businesses in this country that are registered are actually operational, right? And there is a requirement on the part of the operator to, when they discontinue, to report to the authorities that they are no longer in business, but that may not have actually been done. That's just one example. So we can't establish that. What we can say that there certain revenue heads have exceeded what the projections are, and some are underperforming. So we can say which ones are underperforming and which ones are doing better. And that information is available. I don't have it written down here, but it is available.
And when it comes to the development, the interest of RCL, or I guess the cruise port in TCI, does the government have the administration have a determination on what kinds of things will go where, which islands you want to keep, and
Well, this is early days. Obviously, we want to spread the benefits of tourism through the islands, but at the same token, there are criteria that an investor have that we may always also have to try to meet. So I'm not at liberty at this stage to say any more than that. Just except to say that they have very heightened interest in being here.
With the re-establishment of the TC Invest, do you envision the government putting itself on collision course with the governor's office?
Not that, no.
Because they were going to believe that it wasn't necessary. You're going to re-establish it.
No, I think that's our prerogative. That is not the intention. And I think I've produced an abundance of evidence that show that investment agencies, what they're called, IPAs, are better served and are more productive and are more efficient and effective when they are not controlled by the government. As it stands at the moment, we have an investment unit, right? And that investment unit is under resourced, both in terms of the level and the number of the skill pool that's in it, and the other resources that one would expect it to have. Right? TC Invest System in its early years has some extremely impressive numbers. For every dollar that was spent, the return was something like somewhere between $7 and $12 return on that dollar. Right? In fact, during the first 3 years, we can trace something like I want to say close to $1 billion worth of new investments, over $500 million worth of new investment that came to these islands as a result of the interactivity or the proactivity of that institution. It might have lost its way in the end, and there were other ways to deal with that other than to shut it down. And that's why we are not going for the broad base that it had before. We're focusing mostly on promotion and facilitation. For example, it had a banking arm. It's not our intention to get involved in the banking arm, and that's why we're trying to create an SME organization, small and medium-sized enterprise organization. So that is not a part of the organization. It would no longer be a part of TC Invest, but it would be something that the private sector is actively involved in promoting and assisting, funding, helping to fund.
How do we coexist with the investment unit?
It wouldn't be, the investment unit wouldn't exist anymore. The investment unit would be subsumed by TC Invest. So the individuals who are working in the investment unit now would more than likely be transferred or subsumed into the new body. So I don't see that being a conflict.
With no further questions, I'd like to thank you all very much for coming. And you have lots. You holding your mouth? Wow. Right, thank you. Thank you all very much for coming, and I'm sure you'll have lots of time to get the questions, and I'm sure you'll get the right answers too.
Yeah.
Huh? I was trying to get that all over the place.
Maybe those. Yeah, it's all the same.
That's what I said, yeah, they went there. So,